Tuesday. We are on for a Testimony Tuesday, which I am so excited to start doing more of these here on the page and on our YouTube channel. We have Shawn Worthington with us. I feel like I've already said all this because we're having some tech issues. So if you're catching this now, we're actually a little bit later than 10 a.m. Central, which is just fine because most of you are going to catch it on the replay. Please use the chat, use the comments to give Shawn some words of encouragement, to say, hey, we love to chat with you back even after the live video is over, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. And man, do we have a story to share with you today. So Shawn Worthington is my nephew. It's my husband's nephew, so by marriage. And we're going to get a little bit into his story. And I just want you guys to remember that even at his young age, but really anyone, it is very vulnerable and it's courageous, but it can be hard to share your story, to share your testimony. We all have one. We all have chapters in our book, chapters in our lives. Some we're very proud of, others we may not be so proud of. But to tell our story, to share our story, also might help someone else resonate. It might resonate with them, or it might remind them that I'm not alone in this. You know, even if it's not the exact same story, we all go through trials and tribulations. And so that's kind of what Shawn is here to share with us a little bit today. We're going to go way back in his story and then come all the way back to present day. So first, Shawn, introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? How old are you?
I'm Shawn Worthington. I am 23. I was born and raised in Missouri, specifically Columbia and Hallsville. And I currently live in Texas, Flower Mound, Texas.
Yeah, he's a Texan now. And like I said earlier, good decision, because right now we're sitting at 80 degrees and it's going to be snowing tomorrow. So good call. Good call. Now, Shawn, I don't know if you recognize this, but it was 6 years ago today. The twins are 6 years old today. And so Shawn lived with us for a year when my husband and I, his parents moved to Texas for work. He was a senior over at Hallsville, which is actually where I taught. I was a teacher there. So it worked out that he could live with us and I could take him back and forth to school, or he drove sometimes, but that's a whole other story. But we have history. We have history together. And it was today, 6 years ago, that Shawn decided it would be a good idea to basically run away from our nest for a little bit. And that's part of his story. And gosh, do we have lots to talk about the journey all the way in between and all the way up until now, because that was 18 years of his life. So Shawn, I'm going to have you take us back to 8 or 9 years old, because as I said, we all have demons. We all have things in our lives, and we don't just wake up depressed. We don't just wake up and we're addicted to things and we've made bad decisions because of maybe a trickle effect of things that have happened in our life. So I want you to take us back. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for coming back. Take us back to 8 or 9 years old. Where did it all begin for you? And I'm going to show you a picture of Shawn at 9 years old.
Yeah. 8 or 9, that's your wedding.
That's where it all began.
That's awesome. 8 or 9. At that point in time, we were living at 415 Meadow Lane in Hallsville, right there in town, right behind Treble Park. And at the time, I have 3 brothers, Wyatt, Tyler, and Robert. Robert is 28. He's the oldest. Tyler is 18, and Wyatt is 17. At the time, they were real little. They were both born, but it's real little. I was about 8 or 9. My older brother he's my half brother. So his mother's side of the family was pretty rough. And that was a constant battle our whole life with Rob and his mom, and, you know, the whole thing with the court and stuff. So he was getting into things at a young age that he shouldn't have been. And he was bringing it back to my dad's. And I was at a certain influential age. And I just recepted well to what he was bringing, you know, and the things that he was teaching me and that we were doing together, you know, because it was at that point, it's like, this is my idol. This is my ride or die. And I'm going to do what he does. And so it all began, I would say the first time I ever smoked a cigarette was when I was 8 or 9. I can't really exactly put a nail in it. it was like Sunday, and my dad was sleeping on the couch. Mom was at church. She had tried to get us to go that day. Me and my older brother were not having it for some reason. Made it a problem to go. So um, I came outside and I had smelled smoke, and I looked at the garage and I saw my older brother's feet, and I knew it wasn't my dad. My dad was asleep. Popped the garage open. There he is. First thing he did, he hands it out. He's like, offers it to me, and I, in that moment, decided to take it, and that we were doing it together. And that's the story for most of my life after that, until like 2018. But yeah, so that was kind of the beginning, introduction. And from there, we had built forts in the woods. There's a section of woods just along the train tracks in between the field and town there in the neighborhood. We'd build forts that we could see the house out of, and we would take our smoke or cigarettes or weed, whatever we were doing at the time, over there, and so we could watch my family. I was consciously making the decision to do this, knowing it's wrong at that age. And that actually plays into my social life too, with my friends. I met some of my best friends I still have to this day, Connor and Colton. They're twins. They're in town in Hallsville. When we were 5, we actually met, and we had been friends. And so when I started getting into all this, that wasn't cool to them. You know, they weren't. It just wasn't. It wasn't okay to them still. And so I knew I had to hide that from them, from everybody, and to kind of fit in still at that point in time. But I still wanted to do it because my idol was doing it, you know. And at that point, I think I got sold on it myself. I've had an addictive personality for as long as I can remember.
That's what I was going to say, Shawn. You know, taking us back to when you were in the fort, we've all done something that we weren't supposed to do. Even Goody Two Shoe Shawn over here did something that she wasn't supposed to do. And there's a thrill to it, right? There's that thrill that, like, you know, what if I get caught? But if I don't, I'm going to get away with it. And especially if you have an addictive personality, there's something to that puts you on a high. Even if you're 8 or 9 years old and you're just hiding out in a fort, like, there's something to that, right? And so I think what you're saying is that started something that was just going to snowball.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. I mean, and from that point, it only increasingly got worse. I would say that was the early, I would say, 4th, 5th grade was starting to get, you know, involved in these things. And then I had kept good grades in school for most of my life up until middle school, until 8th grade. By about 8th grade, I had really made the decision to get involved more in the wrong things at that point in time, just smoking more and doing different things, staying out. And by freshman, sophomore year, I was failing all classes. I wasn't trying any longer. I was trying to be a class clown, partially because I was going to school high at this point in time. I started smoking before school. During school, I had changed from smoking cigarettes to using chewing tobacco so that I could do it in school. And yeah, it just started trickling down at that point.
Well,
And
do you know how old you were in this picture?
I was 17 in that picture.
Okay. So this is about the time period we're talking.
We're talking just a little bit before this time period.
Okay.
It was about 15, 16. In sophomore, I didn't turn 16 until just before my junior year.
Yeah,
So
you're a little baby.
yeah, so I'm just a little early. So I was younger than most of the kids in my age, in my class. I was actually the 3rd or 4th youngest. So that played into a lot. of things too. The age why I was so young doing some of this, because I always was hanging out with older people my entire life. In sophomore year, I was in football and wrestling, and I had a lot of football buddies that were seniors when I was a freshman and junior when I was a freshman, and it continued to be that way. I hung out less and less with people in my grade and more people older.
Yeah.
Um, and so leading up to that picture,
Mm-hmm.
I started taking acid when I was towards the end of my sophomore year, beginning of the junior year, and that opened up to cocaine and meth. And at that point, I was sneaking out of the house every night, every single night. I would come home, kiss my mom on the cheek, and go right out my window, back into my truck or somebody's vehicle, and we'd be off in the night doing whatever the option was for that night. And the next day, I would come to school still awake off of what I was doing the night before or whatever the case was, and continuing at school instead of
Hence the bad
learning.
grades.
Yeah, hence the bad grades.
Yeah.
I was purposely not trying at that point.
Yeah.
Which leads us into the end of my junior year. I was 16 still. I was about to turn 17, and I had stolen a pistol earlier that year from my dad's safe. He'd come home. He was traveling for work at this point. We had just finished building the house out on Double O.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd stolen a pistol from him. And at this point in time, I was on Xanax really bad. And was making videos and kind of flashing it around town, shooting things, going kind of crazy. My dad had found out I had that and realized the severity of what I was doing with it when he'd come back and put like a real huge, it opened his eyes to what I was doing at that point. And they took my phone and started realizing that I was doing all these hard drugs. And they didn't know what to do because my older brother had been down that same path. He, at this point, had been in and out of prison a couple times, and I was still involved with him. And so at this point, I decided that, I would just keep doing what I was doing. I was double down on the crap, and I thought, I don't like myself. I just had these negative thoughts, like I don't like myself when I'm not. So when I'm not high, this is the way I want to be, and just these weird negative thoughts that.
That's what I want to ask you this, because I feel like this is a lot of people's story once they start with cigarettes, they start with weed, and then it eventually kind of trickles into other things. So for you, was it the fact that like one wasn't enough anymore, or did you just want to explore other feelings and other drugs and other things? Like, why do you think that you tried so many different ones?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to try everything at that point for some reason. I was sold on being who that person, just I didn't see another life for me, and I was headed 100 miles per hour for the exit.
So that was your identity. Like your identity was that person. You were the druggie, you were the drug addict. Maybe you were proud of it. Like people knew Shawn as that person. So why try to be anybody else?
Yeah, it was like that's who I was. That's who I chose to be, and I made my bed. I got to sleep in it. It is who I is. That's what I identified with at that time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's the end of your junior year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're living in a new house, but then things change.
Yeah. So Dad realizes kind of severity of where I'm at. And my two younger brothers are super influential at this point in time. They're on that verge of middle school and that whole time period. So my dad made an executive decision. He's like, we got to get the family out of here. He had gone down to Texas and had interviewed with this company. And on his drive down through there, he drove through Flower Mound. And he's like, this is like the most beautiful place to raise a family I have ever seen. And so they made the decision. And at that point, I wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
I was with the people I was with. I was doing things I was going to do. And there was nothing they were going to tell me. They hadn't been telling me. In my mind at the time, I was just who I was. I was going to do what I was going to do. And so they knew they couldn't just leave me. And you guys, you and Ryan, you picked up the phone to my mom and you told him that you'd give it a shot. You'd allow me to come live with you, even though you had Logan and you guys were building your family.
Yeah.
And so you guys invited me into your home at that time, and my family took off to Texas.
Yeah. And many of you guys know at the time we didn't know that we were having twins. Like you had started living with us before we knew any of that. So we lived in a 2-story house. We had 2 extra bedrooms, actually, playroom. Like it was perfect. It was the perfect thing for Shawn to come in. I worked at the school that he went to. And so even though we didn't live in the same town, they allowed Shawn to live with us and still go to Hallsville School because I worked there. I mean, it was almost like the perfect storm. Like it all just made sense for Shawn to do this. And when we get into this too, Shauna over here is like, and I can save him. Like, we can do this. That's not really the case, but you know how people get, especially Christians, we get this urge that like, I'm just going to put a, healing hand on him. Like, I'm just going to pray over him. It's all going to be fine. But that's not necessarily how it happens. So, Shawn, you move in with us.
Yeah.
Wow, what a ride.
Wild. Yeah. Moved in with you guys. I think it was just the start of the summer. Mm-hmm. And I had just turned 17. Ryan said, I think we were celebrating Logan's birthday at the house. And Wes, rest in peace, Wes, was at the house. And he owns Wes Collier. He owns owned a concrete company. And he had a good relationship with Ryan. They hunted together. And Wes was a great man. Ryan asked him if he would allow me to come and work with him, given the circumstances, and Wes said absolutely, and gave me a shot there. So during the summer, I had cleaned up my act a little bit. That summer, I was going to football camp. I was going to summer school, I think, and I was also I was working the concrete.
Yeah.
I was still choosing to smoke weed and cigarettes, and I was still doing mushrooms and LSD at this time, every so often. The summer started coming to an end, and we went to a football camp that year. Mm-hmm. And I was in great shape for my senior season. I had lost a good bit of weight, and they put me in linebacker because I was quick and I was heavy. And we went to summer camp, and I was just laying hits, and we were having a great time. And I was leading with my head a lot, and definitely got a concussion during that camp, pretty severe concussion. And I didn't say anything to anybody about it. Just kept doing the things I was doing, going to school, trying to live with it. And football season, I was leading my head still, had a couple of huge hits in practice. The first game, I had a hit that made it onto the newspaper. And then we were at practice shortly after that, and I was like, I had lost complete control of myself. And a coach, actually an ex-Mizzou player, he was helping coach our team at the point. he noticed that I was not right mentally. And I started just crying when we were talking. I started freaking out and crying, and he knew instantly. He's like, "Oh, this kid has got an extreme concussion.
Yeah.
He needs to take some time off." So that point, they gave me a couple weeks off. I think it was about a week.
And that was hard for you too, because going back to identity, once we decided maybe we shouldn't do all the hard things, then football kind of became your identity. You know, like that was who you were. And then now if you're going to take that away from me, it's just a whole other hurdle to try to jump over.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so they said, take the week. We want you to come to the next Sunday's practice. This was like a full week before that Sunday. So I had 7+ days, and it was Sunday. It was raining. I had asked Ryan to take the forerunner. I was going to pick Jacob up. And then we were going straight to the football field for the JV practice. So I was eligible to play varsity on Friday. And I was coming to stop at that stop sign there. I think it's right off of, I can't remember what that road
Frank?
is.
Is that Frank?
Yes. Yeah. And I hydroplaned through the stop sign, and I was going speeding probably at least 10, 15 miles over the speed limit. And I didn't have a seatbelt on. I hit the ditch, and I went head first through the windshield, into the windshield, knocked myself out, the whole 9 yards. Somebody had to pull me out. They took me to the hospital, the whole thing, totaled the forerunner.
Yeah.
Right as I was.
You must have called. Somehow
I think I might have.
I think you might have called Ryan, because then we all got the call. At this point, I'm huge pregnant too, and I'm like, okay, here we go, you know. And there was some other things that had happened with Shawn living with us. He taught me a lot of things. Ryan likes to say that I was raised under a rock, which sometimes I'm proud of that. But Shawn truly opened my eyes to the fact that, like, there's other things that happen outside my window that I really didn't know or understand, because I was over there living a pretty good life, you know. And when we got that call, we instantly ran to the ER with him. And I want to show you this picture again, but because at this point, he's got long, beautiful hair. And when we got that forerunner back, he's right. His head, I mean, straight into the inside of the windshield. And the amount of hair alone, we still joke to this day, the amount of hair that was stuck in that windshield. I mean, he hit so hard. And we had full guardianship of him at this time, because it was easier with his parents being so far away. And I remember, like, you know, number one, what have we gotten ourselves into, you know? And number two, like, this kid is my goal right now. And so here he is, like, trying to kill himself. And we're in the ER and we're trying to get him better. And so, okay, we're in the ER room. You may not really even know truly what's going on. What happens there?
Yeah, I really don't remember too much of the ER room. I remember I remember not being able to answer when my birthday was, I think.
Yep.
But that's about all I remember from the ER. The next thing I remember is being back in the basement.
Okay.
And being told I couldn't go to school. I needed to chill. No phone, no TV. Ping pong it is.
Yeah. The doctors really told him that, like, he could not be on screen time for the concussion purposes. And that was difficult.
Yeah. Something, you know, and I'm going to lead by saying sorry to you, Shauna, before I get into this next bit. At that point in time, I was still wanting to do the things I was doing. I was looking for an escape from it at that time. At that point, I was really trying to get it to stop. And I think I was trying to, I don't know exactly what was my goal was, but I was self-destructive.
You weren't
And
ready to give it up.
no.
Yeah.
And even though the concussion, even though the wreck, I was still going out at night, sneaking out, and still taking acid with a concussion, and started using cocaine around that time. So given all the things, there was a point, and I've been suicidal a couple times in my life. This time, this was the first real heavy moment I had. I was sitting in my room, and it was the middle of the day, and I just was tired of me continuing to make these decisions, and I was scared of the cloud I was in, I think, mentally. And I couldn't see, couldn't find God at the time. I don't know if I was searching for him. I'm sure I could have if I was searching for him, but I wasn't open to it. And I one day grabbed the shotgun that I had, and I loaded it, and I put it in my mouth, and I thought, what if they come home and they find me down here, and like, what if Logan finds me down here? What if I shoot through something of his up there, and like, I just, the whole thing, I was like, why am I doing this? It wasn't like I'm not sold on it. It was just, why am I, this isn't. So I took it out. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I was crying, and I was a mess at that point. And I was kind of done. I was just like, this is who I am. I'm a bad person, and I'm doing these
I
things.
remember finding you a couple times in the basement too. Like, I'd go down there and check on him, and we had a great relationship enough that, like, we talked about everything. And Shawn is so easy to talk to, and he's an open book, and like he said earlier, like, he wants to please. He's a people person. And so, through all of it, we worked together. We talked some things out. Ryan was more of the, listen, this is how stupid this is. I'll never forget when a bong was sent to our house, and we didn't know how to deal with things like this, but somehow a bong was shipped to our house, and we were the parents at the time. We were the guardians, like, we had to talk things out and tell Shawn just because I was a teacher at the time, and I remember Ryan saying, like, if someone were to find out that Shauna, had a bong or whatever, like, this is not good for anybody. This is not good for her career. We kind of had a lot of those things going on. And I'll never forget, multiple times I would go downstairs and I would check on Shawn and would have conversations. And sometimes he would just be in tears, or, almost like out of his mind. And I had no idea. I hadn't gone through any of that kind of thing. And I'm saying this because I feel like some people that might be listening to this also have experiences where maybe someone going through something so hard, but you can't commiserate at all. And so you have no idea what to do or what to say, or in the end, you can't change a person. They have to make the decision. You cannot change them. And that's kind of what Shawn is trying to paint the picture here, that it was on his terms and he knew that. So you're randomly in your basement all the time. You finally decided that, okay, it's selfish of me to take my life, because it is, right? Like, this is not what I want for anybody.
Yeah.
So then what?
So then I just kept doing some of the things I was doing. I was eventually able to go back to school. I was not able to wrestle my senior season. I was not able to do anything like that. At school, I was sleeping most of the day at school. I still had a concussion. I had some huge brain trauma from all that, and I didn't really know it at the time, and I wasn't really communicating it well. And I was also using drugs, so it was hard to tell. You don't know if somebody's drugged out or if they've really got an issue at that point. And so, at school, I was just asleep most of the time, not passing any classes. I stopped showing up, or not when I was living with you, actually. So before that, like you said, today marks the day 6 years ago that I I didn't know what to do. I was scared because I knew I was bad for you guys, and I knew I couldn't do what I wanted to do at your house and be the craziest part of me that I wanted to be. And I made that decision to not come back and to leave you guys hanging in the most important time you needed me after all the work that you did for me, after everything you've done for me.
Yeah, and we wanted to make that clear. So just to be clear, I had gone into labor that night, and Logan was 6 at the time, 5 or 6 at the time. And so it was perfect. Shawn, he was a senior. He was going to be down there. We ran down there real quick to the basement where he lived, where his room was, and we were going to say like, hey, I need, Shauna needs to go to the hospital. Can you stay with Logan? It was nighttime, just, sleep, and then get him to school or whatever in the morning. Like we were counting on Shawn for that. And we go downstairs for, this wasn't the first time, but we had realized that he had snuck out again. And we joked because one time it had snowed and Shawn decided to sneak out, tried to indicate that he had not snuck out. But as we know, we leave footprints in the snow. So we knew where he was kind of. But, in the moment we were just like, we're screwed again. Or you get to the point when someone has done something so much to you, that you are a little bit calloused in a way. And it's just like, go figure. The time we didn't, like, that's kind of where we were at the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. Your stuff is still at the house, but you've decided to do your own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, I'd walked away from you guys and I said, I'm done going back and I'm going to commit to being this guy, this illusion of this person. And I kept going to school a couple days a week at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I was couch hopping, I guess is what you'd call it. I was sleeping on friends' couches. Some people had offered me a room. I want to say it by name: Chelsea Bradshaw and Caleb Bradshaw, and their mother and their father. They allowed me into their home at that point. Around that time, they saw how bad I was trending, and I was friends with Caleb and Chelsea, and their mom wanted to help, and they gave me an opportunity to live there. And I was so bad on the crap, on everything, that I was such a bad influence on Caleb and Chelsea that it came to a point where me and Caleb got into it. And I think it was pretty understood that I shouldn't be living there anymore. Me and Caleb were still friends at this point in time. I ended up moving in. My buddy had graduated a year before, went off to college and come back to town. He quit college and come back to town and was getting an apartment with another kid his age. And they asked me if I wanted to come in on and live at the apartment and pay a third of the rent a month. And at this point in time, I wanted that because I was trending down. I wanted to do everything I could. I wanted to smoke as much as I could. I wanted to take all the pills. I was just trying to party, trying to have a good time. And I moved in with them. I stopped going to school. I remember my mother would call me every morning and try to get me to go to school. You called me so often too. You both still trying to get me to go to school, still fighting, trying to get me to get in there and at least show up. And that picture is at that apartment complex. That is me. I hadn't slept in multiple days. I was off of everything in the book, and I I think one of my buddies just saw where I was at and took this picture. I'm not entirely sure, but that was shortly after we moved into that apartment complex. It's
Okay.
before I graduated. I was still 17.
Okay.
Um, so we're living there. We're having parties like every other night, inviting tons of people. Um, and I'm taking different things left and right, and got to a point where my entire family separated from me, I would say. I had been given the opportunity to live at a couple other family members' houses, and for a very short period of time, they knew I was just a ticking time bomb. But they wanted to help, but they have kids, they have things going on. It's you're not in the right position, you're not in the right position, and you cannot put other people at risk. So that's why my parents moved out and did what they did, because those two boys were at risk. I mean, it was the severity of my mental at the time, like how far gone I was.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, so I had no family to call and talk to because they were not okay with what I was doing, and I knew that. Um, it came to a point where graduation, come time for me to graduate, and I wasn't going to. My parents flew in. We all sat down at the school. I think you were there. And
I did not go.
no, yeah, I don't think you went.
Yeah, we did not for a couple of reasons, but with the twins and stuff, we were not there.
We had this meeting with the principal, vice principal, couple counselors, and they said, "Look, he hasn't done anything to graduate. We don't want to see him." I think that they all just had a handshake deal. Like if my mom can come up with doctor's notes and stuff, they would let me walk, and then they'd let me work as a janitor for 2 weeks to get my diploma. And so that was the deal we took. And so I could graduate high school and say I have a diploma,
Yeah,
even though
I
I didn't put
do
in any
remember
work.
that. And you kind of get a bitter taste in your mouth a little bit when someone has done you wrong, and whatever it might be, big, little, in between. And like for us, it was like it was fake. Like he didn't earn that, and for you to go celebrate something that someone didn't earn, and all the while, like you're basically homeless at this time, and
Yep.
we essentially were still the guardians of you until you turned 18. And it's so hard. And I hope this resonates with somebody, but when you know that there's maybe something you can do, but at the end, like, all you can do is show grace, all you can do is be the role model, all you can do is create an environment that maybe they want to be in. But like I said earlier, they have to make that decision. Like Shawn had to make the decision to face reality or to continue on the path that he was.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's exactly it. I didn't earn it. And they were gonna allow me to walk with my friends. And so I mean, just to tell you how bad I was, like the night before we stayed up and partied, and I took ecstasy and probably cocaine. I was on everything at that time. I didn't sleep that night. We partied all night, and the next day I went to walk the stage. And my family from Texas had showed up. My mom and dad. It took me shopping to get like a dress, shoes, and a nice outfit. And they knew I was rough. I smelled bad. I looked bad. I was bad. And um, yeah, we went to the graduation ceremony, and that was the last time I thought I'd see my parents. After that, after I graduated, I was pretty depressed because I knew I didn't earn it, and all the things that had gone down. I was still suicidal, and I was just like, you know what? I called Wes, and yeah, I called Wes, and I said, hey, I've got a buddy and me. We're looking for a job. I just graduated. This was after I did the 2 weeks for the janitorial, and then they gave me the diploma. I called Wes the minute I walked out of the high school. Said, hey, I need a job again. He's like, I got you. He's like, you and your bud show up tomorrow. Be ready to work. Yes, sir. And from that point on, that's what I did. I did that for probably 2 months. I was doing that again. And during that 2 months, I went harder than probably I'd ever gone at that time. And that's probably hard to imagine. I just went days without sleeping, doing the most drugs I could do, self-destructive to the max, trying to, I don't know, end it or what? I don't know. And I was just crashing hard. And I was on meth. I was smoking meth with this homeless dude named Eric. That he was this bald dude. He got out of prison while we were living at the apartment complex, and his aunt lived in the apartment complex. And he was bad on meth, and I was bad on everything. And I would always, I was smoking meth with, I was, and doing acid and staying up and going to work and not really being much at work, and then coming home and then still staying up, partying, and sometimes I get sleep. But every time I did, my buddy woke me up to get to work. And so I'd always be at work. Well, one night I had been up for about probably 4 or 5 days at this point. I seeing stuff. I was really rough, and I was on acid, and I called my dad, and I told him that I don't know what I'm doing. I was crying. I said, I need a way out. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to change. And at that point, I don't know if I was sure or if I wasn't, if I was serious or not, but I knew that I could not do that. I couldn't be that person anymore.
Okay.
And I needed to
This
change.
is rock bottom.
Yeah, that was first time.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going downhill a good while, but
Yeah.
you're feeling like this is truly like I stay here and it probably ends, or I have to find some way out of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's like, I'll get you a bus ticket. He was in Oklahoma on a project on Vasa in OKC. The family was in Flower Mound, but he was 2 hours in Oklahoma for work, and that's where they were building the Vasa. He said, I'll get you a bus ticket. He said, you can come down. I'll get you on the labor team. But he said, this is your shot. He said, don't screw this up, or I will never help you again. He's like, this is it. And he's like, if you don't get on this bus, he said, I'll never help you again. He's like, that's it. I said, yes, sir. Called Nana and Paul. I said, hey, I need a ride to the bus station at 3 a.m. tomorrow. Like, they said, absolutely. Dropped everything they had. Come and picked me up that morning. And this is a huge thing. Our grandpa, Paul, he's really tight on money. And it's a good thing. But I'll never forget this. He's not the type of person to give money. He will never give money out, matter of fact. They do for Christmas and stuff like that, but small amounts, and they buy you things that you can use. They're very meaningful people. He gave me $100 and $150, and they said, please call us if you need anything. Like, they were scared, Shawn. They were scared looking at me and sending me home.
I remember at this point, and we'd had the conversation before, but there were many parts around this time period that the family was like, if we get news that Shawn is no longer with us, it would have been heartbreaking, but it would not have necessarily been surprising. Like, just to kind of paint that picture, like, that's how deep it was, that all of these, it just snowballed so much that you get to a point so deep that you're like, there's no way out. And we just knew that, like, everyone was kind of tense at this time to get that call.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see the look on Nana's face. Like you said, am I going to see this boy again? And so I got on the bus. something I never really told anybody in Kansas. I got swapped buses. We swapped buses in Kansas. I got pulled off um, the um, the loading list and by two police officers, and they brought me into a room and searched me and found a bunch of stuff on me. I had tried to take stuff with me, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I remember like these guys were fighting with their moral. Like this is still a kid.
Yeah.
He's got all this stuff. Like he looks homeless. He smells bad. What is going on? And they just told me, they said, "We're taking all this. You're gonna go get on that bus, and you'll be hearing from us," is kind of what they said. And those gentlemen didn't charge me with that. They wanted me to live my life. They wanted to give me opportunity. It might have been God. I don't know. Had to have been a God's hand on me. But
Yeah.
because I was, it was good to arrest me. We'll just say it like that. It would have been fair, very well justified, and I probably would have served some time.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They let me go. I showed up in Oklahoma. I started working. I put down the crap. I started working really hard and ended up getting opportunity to work with these carpenters. They're traveling carpenters. And he said the gentleman that owned the company, Dwight, he's a very heavily influenced by religion. He's a great man. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to take this boy in and I'm going to allow him to live in my basement. I'm going to bring him on the team. He's going to help us fabricate these cabinets. We're going to go to these different states. You're going to get him some traveling. We're going to, get him out of here, give him an opportunity to be with me, be close to God." And I didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
I saw it as an opportunity for me to do the things I wanted to do in another place. And although I wasn't doing cocaine, I wasn't doing meth or anything like that at this time, I was still smoking weed. And we got to Kansas, and the first month I was in Kansas, I made a left turn in a construction zone and to get onto a highway, and I got T-boned by a couple doing 60 in my this was my third vehicle at this point, and I was 18.
Record.
Yeah, I got T-boned pretty hard. I hit my head really good again, and broke the windshield. The whole thing. Bounced my head around again. Yeah, I'd refused medical treatment at this point, and because I didn't have my family, I was way away from everybody I knew. I was with kind of strangers. I didn't want to be too hard on them. I wanted to continue to work. It was kind of scary, so I just continued to work and with this concussion and do the things I was doing. We got to our last stop, and Arizona, Phoenix. We were did a week install, and he gave us our check for the per diem for the entire 5 weeks we were out at one time. And he's like, "I got a flight for you. I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to send you home to Missouri to your grandma, grandpa, your family for Christmas." It was so sweet of him. It was one of the nicest things that he could have ever done for anybody. I mean, it was at that time I needed to see my family.
Yeah.
So I went from Phoenix to Missouri with all that per diem money. And just to put it in perspective, it was about $3,000. And I landed in Missouri and saw my family very briefly. Went and started hanging out with some buddies that I hadn't seen since I left, and very quickly bought I think it was like a half ounce of cocaine. And just started going crazy. And it was time for me to leave. And I called Dwight, and I told him that I couldn't go because my grandfather had passed. And in reality, I was so strung out on cocaine that I could not get on that flight. And he called my dad and said, "I'm so sorry for the loss." My dad was confused. And he called me back and he said, or he texted me and he said that I can come grab my stuff whenever, and God bless. And he wishes me the best. I didn't know what to take from it. And my dad called me right after and he said, "Boy, I don't know what you've gotten into. I don't know what you've done." Started going off on me, and I just hung up. And the next week, continued to go and do the things I used to do. Then I called my dad back and I said, "Dad, I screwed up again. I need another bailout. Strung out on coke. I need to get back down there." And he's like, "I'll buy you a flight." It's like, same thing he said about the bus. He's like, "If you miss this flight, do not call me again." And so I said, "Yes, sir." I hopped on the flight. I was eating. I couldn't snort the cocaine anymore because my nose was so calloused and raw because I had used so much of it that I was eating it and rubbing it on my mouth and trying to get as much as I can, just to put it in perspective how bad I was already, again, just so fast. Well, I got to the flight. I got back to Texas, and my dad took one look at me, and he said, "You're getting a job this week, and if you don't, you're out." And so that week, within 3 days, I had a job at Verizon Wireless, and I was riding my bike to work as I think I was 19 at this point. The 19-year-old, you're riding your dad's bike to work. Not fun. You know, you want to be driving, and you want to be doing things. You want to be have that freedom, and I didn't deserve it. I at all. And you know, I was lucky to be alive and do the things I was doing. So I took advantage of that. This was during COVID. It just started, and I eventually became manager, and then I started an LLC for a final cleaning service, and then started getting contracts. Eventually quit Verizon, went full-fledged into final cleans and laboring throughout projects, but under my name, getting a contracted amount rather than a per hour amount. So I was doing more jobs, doing different things, and we had a water main break, and we had a freeze, and a bunch of water pipes busted in everybody's houses down here. One happened to be at my dad's CEO of his company, Parkway Construction, company I actually work for now, at his house. It was in his house, and he needed somebody to remediate the water, peel back his carpet, get air blowing through there, and prevent mold. And I got that call. I went and helped him, and that led to more jobs with Parkway. Eventually led me to a senior living facility that I became, I got the opportunity to join the maintenance team as a director. So I was the only maintenance man at this facility. It was a full operation, independent senior living, and they gave me the opportunity to be the director of maintenance. I was doing all the capital expenses. I was doing all inspections. I was installing stuff. I was just going crazy, and I got to be with these people that had lived their full life, done all these crazy stuff, and were still alive, and were sober, and they were happy, and I just kind of gave me hope. And I said, you know what? I'm going to apply for the company I was working for as a part of their team, as a superintendent. And I applied. I got the job, partially because my dad works there. Yeah. And they wanted to give me a shot as an assistant. And I took the opportunity, and my first job was Houston. From Houston, it was LA. When I got to LA, I started drinking because I was by myself. And I started drinking a lot. And I found some cocaine in LA. And started shredding back slowly. Over the course of the next year, I gained about 30 pounds from alcohol. I was about 245. We're getting into about 2020, 2021 here. And I was just drinking full-fledged, and every once in a while I was doing cocaine. I smoked weed a lot. I was working as a superintendent. So I'm supposed to be telling people how to do a job, and I'm barely conscious enough, during the work hours. And all I'm thinking about is getting the next opening that IPA as soon as work's over. It's all I'm thinking about. And I mean, it got to a point I was drinking about 12 IPAs a night, smoking multiple things of weed a night, and I was doing cocaine again on the regular in San Diego. And I had this job. I had good things going for me. I was creeping into a super scary depression, and all I thought about was ending my own life. I had a pistol at the time. I did what I did in the basement. One night, I had my windows down. I was falling asleep with my windows down in a liquor store parking lot across. This was just in 2022, and I was falling asleep in this liquor store parking lot with my windows down, and the cashier would come out. And it got to the point where he would be like, "Dude, you cannot keep doing this. I'm gonna call the police. I don't want you to get hurt. There's homeless everywhere. There's violent people out here, like in Escondido, San Diego, in California." And I was like, and that night I went home. I woke up. I had put the gun in my mouth a couple nights before again. I just was going through it and felt so sorry for myself. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I was overweight, the whole thing. And I went home that night. I drove across the road. Parked was at my apartment complex. I could have just been there. And I went and laid in bed, and I closed my eyes. And I'll never forget this. I'll never, ever forget this. I closed my eyes, and I was overcome with evil. I was completely overcome with darkness, and it was the most scared and vulnerable I have ever felt in my entire life. I felt naked and afraid in the middle of it was overwhelmingly scary, and it broke within a few seconds. It broke, and I just feel love and acceptance, and I see Jesus. I see this man that's like, I have been here for you. I have been here. You have been ignoring me. All you need to do is accept me into your life, and I am here. And that's all. And that's all. Like, it was so overwhelming. And I mean, it gives me cold chills thinking about it, just talking about it. But it was so overwhelming that I didn't have a second thought after that Jesus and God were real, and that I had been ignoring it my whole life, purposely turning my back on it. And then that moment I realized I could accept him, and he would accept me. And I chose from there on. I decided I wanted to quit drinking, and I quit drinking August 3rd. And September 28th, I quit smoking cigarettes. This is 2022 or 3 at this point.
Okay.
I think it's 2023. And I quit smoking cigarettes, and I started working out shortly after that. And I just didn't look back. I said, you know what? I'm going full-fledged. I'm done looking at myself in the mirror. Like, I hate waking up in the morning hating what I look like. I'm going to get this done. And I set myself towards it, and I still am on it. Like, you wouldn't believe. I wake up every day so thankful I have the opportunity to do it. I started working out. I started eating right. I started trying to help people that were around me get their mind right. I started I started practicing faith. With I read daily devotionals every morning. I wake up. I read them before I start my day because I still wake up sometimes with this weird. Sometimes I wake up angry, and sometimes I wake up with mood swings and different things. And I read it every morning, and it gets me back on the same page, like it was the day before. I can kind of like get back into it, and um, and yeah, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've just competed in my first 5K in March 1st. I have been sober off alcohol for a while now. It's to the point where I can enjoy a glass of red wine like once a month or whenever I choose to,
Mhm.
without going and getting crazy off of it. I can have one glass and not have it again for a year.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of that. I had never thought I'd ever be that way in my life. I'm I haven't used cocaine since I think it was that night that
Okay.
I had that the night before when I had the gun um, before I didn't had the opportunity to meet Jesus and so I've been sober off that since. I haven't even thought about anything hard or anything like that, and I've just been working very hard, showing up for everybody that loves me, and trying to be present.
Gosh, Shawn, you talked about a while back about how you have an addictive personality, and that can ring true for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And when you got the job, especially when you were more like supervisor level, I'm sure that that gave you a new purpose, but it also probably gives you a thrill in a way because now people are looking up to me and I'm feeling successful, and that probably gave you a high enough. But then of course you decided to, I don't even know, like if I went to LA, I wouldn't even know where to go to find drugs. Like I'm impressed. But when there's a will, there's a way, right?
Yeah, that's how it. Yeah.
So then I don't even know how to get a taxi. You should have seen or Ryan and I in Las Vegas. Like I'm impressed. Okay. So then we find another way. We find something else to be addicted to, and that's exercising. That's working out. That's self
Yes.
care. Filling our bodies with health and nutrition. And unfortunately, it took a while to figure that out. But especially if we have those addictive personalities, it's finding something that you want to wake up for every day and run and put 100% into. And when you find that, and it's the good thing that's going to take you into the next step of life, man, like it's success.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a conscious decision every day too. It's not something that it's just done and it's done. And I have to make that conscious decision to not get drunk. I have to make the conscious decision to love what I do and continue to thrive in the areas that I'm thriving in and to be doing the things I'm doing 100% every day. It's the commitment. And it's a practice thing. You have to practice. Practice makes perfect in everything you do. Just like faith, just like everything else. You have to practice being a good person, doing good things, being healthy and working out and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's hard to just, you wake up and you're a Christian, and people then looking at you because like we said at the beginning, you still have those skeletons in your closet. You still have the past.
Yeah.
But I always think back to sometimes when you ask God for things, like let's say I ask God for greener grass, he's going to send rain.
Yep.
It's not really going to look like a rainbow. He's going to send things that are going to strengthen us or change us or mold us, and it's not necessarily going to look pretty in the now. But man, hindsight is always 2020, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Even though your hindsight might just be quite the story, but I don't have near the story to tell. But that's okay.
Well, it might be a good thing,
Yeah.
be a good thing,
Like
Shauna.
I said, I some of the things I'm telling you, when he would come home and he would start to open up to us a little bit. I didn't know half the crap he was talking about. I mean, I knew what weed was, kind of, but some of the things that he would do, I'd be like, Ryan, I don't even understand. I mean, I remember one time he had an apple. I thought he was eating an apple outside, and he was using it to smoke. I'm not kidding. I mean, the things that you learn. But I will never forget, Shawn. I don't know when this was. I think we were just talking after everything had happened, and I said something about how you have taught me a lot, and so therefore I can carry it into my kids, and I hope that Logan never makes some
Yeah.
of the decisions and stuff. And you looked at me, I mean, dead in the face, just like that, and you said he won't. You said he won't. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, but what if he does? And it sticks to me still to this day, because I think what you were trying to indicate was that if we can truly create an environment for our youth and they're the people around us that they want to go in that direction, they want to make those good decisions. Like his identity, even though sometimes it can be annoying, is like, I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to do this and that. I'm going to get good grades. He got a B the other day, and we were like, what the heck? You are an A kid, But those standards, like holding them to that, means something. And I think you're right. Yes, is he going to make bad decisions? For sure. He is going to be, he's 12. He's going to be in high school soon enough, and he's going to make bad decisions. But because of circumstances, I do feel like maybe, like you said, he won't want to disappoint.
I 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Man.
It's so true. And that's what my parents did for my two little brothers. They're doing excellent down here in Texas. Tyler is 18 years old, and he's finishing his senior year. He's had a job since he was 15. He bought his own first car, and he traded it in on a brand new Toyota RAV4 last year before I had a brand new car.
Ouch.
And yeah, it hit. And but I was so happy for him. And Wyatt went through one of the most traumatic accidents that a person can go through when he was 14 here in Texas. He got in a rollover side-by-side accident, and it crushed him. And he had to be life-flighted to the hospital. He had collapsed the lung, crushed all his ribs, broke pieces of his back, his neck. And he was just lucky to be alive. And he made a full recovery. He came back stronger after that.
Yeah.
And more athletic. I don't know how that would be.
Yeah.
And he's right now just working through school. He's trying to finish out. Wyatt's got a 3.8 GPA right now. So, and they're doing really good. Tyler actually interned for the company me and my dad work at as a project coordinator last summer.
Okay.
And they want to get him on after he gets his degree. So.
Family business.
Construction, I guess.
Oh, Shawn, I know that you have touched some lives today. You guys. Oh, Nicole wrote us a novel. Oh, sweet boy. As a mama, I cried for you through your whole testimony. The Lord has always been with you. You have a purpose of being here. I'm so, so happy that you have opened your eyes and heart to see him in front of you. Your beautiful soul. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
It is. And everyone's rock bottom is going to look different, and that's the message here is everyone can dig themselves out of something, no matter how ugly or nasty or dirty it might look, or how lonely you are, especially if you're on that bus alone and people drag you off the bus because you've got some not so great things in your backpack. But yeah, a full 180 can truly happen for anybody.
Yep.
So, Shawn, thank you. I know that you touched some people today, and that was very courageous of you. So it's only up from here. I mean, my gosh, now we just got to find a woman and get married and start a life.
That's the goal. Definitely looking forward to it.
Oh, shoot. I love it.
I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Well, enjoy your time for now. People, look at him. He's just traveling the world and enjoying life and running. I mean, maybe I'm jealous of you, okay?
No.
Look at him. From this to this. I'm so proud of you. Amazing story. Thank you, Shawn. It's been wonderful. Thank you for sharing this, and share this out to someone if maybe you know someone that might be encouraged or touched by this. Maybe they're going through something, or they've got a nephew or a grandson or just a family member that might be going through some tough times. There's a light. There's a light at the end.
Yes, there is.
Thank you so much, Shawn. Hang here. We're gonna end this here. Thank you guys for joining us. Oh, there's Nana.
Hi, Nana.
Oh, did you ever give the 150 back to Paul? I need to ask you that.
I think I still owe him that. Yeah, actually.
All right. We'll see you guys. Thank you for joining.